For those who were in the earlier session, welcome back. For those of you who are just in the webinar session, welcome. I'm Margaret Briggs, and I'm the MAFA 2021 Conference Chair. This is our second of two sample sessions so that you can get a sense before registration opens of what class and lecture experiences will be like at the virtual conference. This is our webinar session. We're expecting it to run about 15-20 minutes total. And we're not trying to have a class this evening. We want you to get a feel for what you'll be able to see and hear when an instructor presents it. And we're also not going to go in depth with Zoom controls. So we'll post links to tutorials in the FAQs on the conference website. And if you're interested in a practice Zoom session for your guild, email me at help@mafafiber.org and I'll be happy to set that up. We're also going to have a practice session about a week before the conference on how to log into the attendee hub and get into a session. So tonight, obviously it's webinar, so everyone's muted. We are recording, so if you don't want to be recorded, I guess stay out of the chat. We'll have a few minutes to answer questions at the end, so put those in the Q&A or practice. If you just want to practice how to use it, feel free to say, I'm just practicing, and then we'll know that we don't need to try and answer it live. If you're on a tablet or an iPad, look for the more or the three little dots, and if you click that, that should take you to where you can get to the Q&A in the chat. And so now to show you what a class will be like or a webinar will be like, we've invited Edie Ekman to act as our sample instructor. Edie teaches knitting and crochet online at various major events and for guilds all around the country. And she also teaches a class for teachers on how to teach online. So welcome back, Edie.
Thank you. So are you going to switch me for the webinar? Let's see. There we go. Hi. So hello, everyone. Some of you may have been with me just a little while ago when we were doing the meeting type or the interactive type. A webinar is a little bit different from an interactive class in that the teacher is doing all the presenting. I can't see you, you can see me, so it doesn't go both ways. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know if you're paying attention to me. And this is more of a lecture type thing. So I would be demonstrating, or I would be sharing my screen, perhaps sharing a PowerPoint. So let me share a PowerPoint with you. Don't worry, I'm not going to do the whole talk or whatever. But so for example, I could be talking along and we're talking about 25 tips for better crocheting, and I say blah, 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 whatever. And then I talk about the next thing, and then I talk about the next thing. And I share photos, or I have, pictures of people spinning in Afghanistan or whatever my topic is. And I can really share some close-up pictures with you, which I think in a lot of ways is maybe even better than if you're sitting in a big room and somebody's showing a slideshow up at the top of the room, because this way you're seeing it right there up close and personal right next to you. So you can really see what's going on. You can see close-ups of stitch patterns and so on. So I actually like that you can be here and be home in your PJs and watching if you want. So that's an awesome way to do it. I can also share close-ups of a demonstration. So for example, if I'm going to be doing something with this loom, I can have a camera set up right over my loom, and I don't have it very high at the moment, but I could bring it, again, I don't have that much space here, but I could bring my camera up so that you can really see what's going on, and I could be demonstrating very close up exactly what's going on. So if I stick my hook through here and grab a thread with my glasses, not wearing my glasses, it's very hard to do. So I could do that, and I could pull it through, and you could really see what's going on nice and close. So I can do that with, I teach knitting and crochet. I don't teach weaving, just do that as a hobby. But whether it's spinning or whether it's, weaving or whatever, it is possible, even with a larger loom, for the teacher to have that shot really close or right at the exact angle they need it to be. So that can be very, very helpful in the same way that they can have, they can share videos with you. So I could share a, a video that has a little bit of a technique in it, maybe that's pre-prepared. So anything that that you're used to seeing in a webinar, whether it's a work webinar or a school webinar or whatever, that's what a class, a webinar from MAFA would be like. You can see the beautiful pictures and so on. And I think, Margaret, they're going to be recorded. You'll have to answer that. I'm sure people will have questions. So it's really possible to do this, stay at home and learn the fiber arts without having to leave your house, which is pretty awesome, I think, right now, but also just anytime. Not everybody can get to Pennsylvania to attend a 3-day conference, but almost anybody can attend from home, no matter what your other responsibilities are. So I think there are plenty of opportunities for lots of people to attend who maybe hadn't had that opportunity before. And I'm happy to answer questions about what a webinar would be like, or even the interactive classes if there are questions.
We've got a couple of questions that are, I think, maybe more conference specific. But again, anybody who has questions for Edie or for me, go ahead and either type them in the chat or use the Q&A feature. Janelle is asking, will the instructors give us suggestions for how to set up the area where the workshop will be viewed, such as camera setup? Most of our classes, they're not going to require you to have a camera, but if they are doing something like our 2-day hands-on weaving classes, I think they will have some suggestions for you about what it is that they might need to see or how to send them images. Sometimes what you can do is, if it's something small, you can hold it up in front of your webcam. You can also, some teachers will ask you to take a picture of it and text or email it to them, because then they can share their screen and show it to everyone more clearly. Some classes you're not going to need to show your work, so you won't need a camera. Also, Janelle asked, will we be able to ask questions about the material covered in the specific workshops? If you have a question, either type it into the Q&A or the chat, or let me suggest that if you email me, if you have a question about a particular class, email it to me at help@mafafiber.org and let me know which class you're interested in, and we'll try and get you more information. We do have a pretty complete description on the website and in the brochure, including the materials that are needed, the supplies that are needed for the class. But in terms of the actual syllabus for the class, that's something that we'd have to refer to the instructor. We're getting a couple of people thanking us for these 2 sessions. This is what we were hoping that this would help, because people that maybe have only been in a guild meeting or Zooming with their family might not have had a sense about how you could actually see fiber arts type things.
And I'd like to make a point about the difference between, again, about the webinar and the interactive, because if you weren't in the previous session when we were doing the interactive thing, we talked more about how you would be asking questions. So if you think about an interactive session as being more like the sessions where you would go in and there would be 20 people in a room and the teacher would be there, and you would be doing the hands-on thing. Whereas the webinar type is more like when you would be in the auditorium and listening to, I'm not coming up with a name right now, but listening to somebody talk about, weaving in Afghanistan or whatever. So it's more whether you would be sitting in a chair, knitting on a sock while you're listening to somebody, that would be the webinar. And the interactive would be more like you're in the classroom actually doing the hands-on at the same time.
Right, and we have some classes that are more straight lecture, and so those are going to tend to be webinars. So one of the questions we just got was, does the class listing indicate whether it's interactive or webinar? Yes. So both in the brochure, not as much on the website, it's in the description, but if you look in the brochure, we've put some icons for lectures, for webinar, for hands-on, to give you a sense. If you ever have a question, just send us an email and we can clarify things. Ruth says, great cowl. So Edie, that's your mosaic. That's one of the classes that you teach.
Exactly. I think I'm teaching this class for Charlottesville or Central Virginia Fiber Arts Guild coming up.
Is that Is that knitting? That's crochet. Is
It's
it?
crocheted.
Yeah. Oh, so anybody who's interested, yes, we're Central Virginia Fiber Arts Guild. We've got a mosaic crochet class on the 27th. Chris is asking about how does the instructor split the screen? That's something that the host does. So Chris, I'll get with you. She's on my education committee. We're going to have a webinar planning session tomorrow to teach the instructors how to do that. So I can show everybody how to do that. And yes, the previous session was recorded, and so give me a day or so, and what we're going to do is post the videos probably in the FAQs on the conference website. Let's see. So, oh, there's Candy coming to our class. Anybody have any other? Okay, I see somewhere in the chat. There will be a limit for participants for the webinars, but it tends to be much higher. So where the interactive classes, we have some that are hands-on that may be as low as 15, 20 people. You know, the big webinars or the lunchtime and late afternoon webinars, there's effectively no limit because, you know, the moderator will try and field some of the questions. But if it's just a straight lecture, then we can fit a lot more people in there. Any other questions? This one's a little more self-explanatory, I think, than the interactive class.
Thank you.
If we don't have any other questions, then we'll give this another minute or so to see if anybody wants to put anything else.
And Mary says you'll have to have folks watching both chat and Q&A can't see both at once.
Yeah,
I'm actually looking at both at once, but then I may not have all the other things to go on. Webinar is a little bit different to handle. The permissions and so on are a little bit different.
Right. And so what I have is, yeah, I've got the chat window and the Q&A window up at the same time. It's sort of covering Edie's screen a little bit, but this is why we're going to have volunteer moderators for all the sessions. For some of the bigger lectures, we're going to try and have some of our committee members, but we're basically going to get people that are experienced with Zoom and also do some training and practicing before it's time. But yeah, there'll be moderators, so the instructor isn't going to be trying to mind the chat and be doing their teaching at the same time.
And actually, Mary does make a good point here. She says cell phone may be different too, and this is actually a very important point to make. If you're watching a webinar or taking a class, you really want to use the device that has the most screen real estate possible. So your desktop or your laptop or your tablet or your phone. The phone is absolutely the least effective at not only learning, but having the controls that you want. It's not really ideal. It's better than nothing, but it's not really what you want to watch the class on if you have something that's larger.
And that might be something you could do if you're just watching one of the lectures at lunchtime or the late afternoon, or you're going to the morning coffee or evening drop-in. But yeah, you don't have the same controls and you don't have as much space. I do have one new question just came in on the cost. The $25 is for registration is for the conference pass, and that covers all of the lunchtime and late afternoon lectures, morning coffee, evening drop-in, the keynote, the vendor hall, and then yes, you pay for classes individually, and those classes are $35 for members and $40 for non-members. If you've got a 2-session class, it's going to be double that. So we do have a number of classes that are a 1-day class. So it's a 2-session class, and then a couple of 2-day classes. So that's 4 sessions. Thank you everybody for coming. Give me a day or two to get the videos up on the website, and look forward to seeing everybody at the conference. Again, feel free to email me if you have more questions that we couldn't cover here. Thanks. Good night.
Right.